Welcome to Rail Talk. This is episode 63, and I am filling in for Joe Bianca. Beside me, we got Jonathan Green. So much to talk about. Hurricane Milton bearing down on Florida. Prayers are up. We're going to be talking with Tod Wojciechowski, the director of sales at OBS, find out how they're preparing for the storm and how they're just going to get through the sale as it is. And a lot of news to talk about regarding the sales scene. We're also going to be joined by Aron Wellman of Eclipse Thoroughbreds. He's got a bit of an announcement. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the lay of the land in terms of the Breeders' Cup. All of the domestic win and your ins are completed. We've got a loaded show. This is not your Future Stars forecast, but again, Rail Talk. You ready to roll?
Jonathan Green, General Manager of DJ Stable. Ren, it is so cool that you're here. I can't believe that we're actually doing a show together that's going to last less than 2 hours. But we have something to shoot for, and I can't wait for the show to start. And Joe, stay in Greece or wherever the hell you are for as long as you want, buddy. We're covered here.
Rail Talk is sponsored by Fasig-Tipton. I mean, the longevity of the sales company going back to 1898. You know where they were headquartered at one point in the old days? Back at Madison Square Garden. I mean, they sold Man of War, and they've also sold Flightline if we're going to take it into the, more present time. And now they're in the digital realm as well. I mean, they've got you covered with yearling sales, the fall mix sales, everything. I love the Saratoga sale. It's a party.
It is. And you can go from the Saratoga sale to the Night of the Stars, which is just a must-see TV, quite frankly. I mean, even if you're not buying, just to go there and see the recent Breeders' Cup graduates that they fly over privately from, in this case, from San Diego right to Kentucky, which always blows my mind, the logistics of that. And then, Ren, I don't know if you realize, but, just this weekend alone, you had federal judge who was a Fasig-Tipton July graduate, winner of the Ogden Phoenix, excuse me. Then you have Virgin Collada, who was a Fasig-Tipton October graduate, finished second in the Miss Grillo with the October sale, coming up in a couple of weeks. And then Non-Compliant, who won out of their 2-year-old sale and won the Oak Leaf. So a lot of horses. Oh, and then I forgot Nakatomi, who ran second in that same Phoenix, was actually a Horses of Racing Age sale graduate, $205,000. So immediate return on investment for that horse. And the list goes on and on. There's currently an online digital sale going on as we speak, Ren, that closes Tuesday night. So you still have time to bid on some of those DJ horses, which sell without reserve. But you're right. From over 100 years ago to Madison Square Garden, to Man of War, to recent times, to Flightline, to the next champions that are coming through the Fasig-Tipton pipeline. They are the place to buy horses.
Again, with Hurricane Milton bearing down on Florida, we want to reiterate that our thoughts and prayers are with everybody. I've got a lot of friends and colleagues there in Tampa Bay. Of course, we are looking at how this is going to go across the state and impact Ocala. And again, going to be speaking with Tod Wojciechowski about how OBS sales is preparing for this or getting through it, because the sale is active. And, there's just a lot to go into it. But of course, before we get to that, we did have a lot of racing action in terms of the Breeders' Cup. A lot of win in your ins. Those domestic win in your ins are done and dusted. We do have 2 more across the pond, but a lot to get to, John.
No question, Ren. I mean, this, if you weren't, sitting by your screen watching all these different races between California and Florida and Kentucky and Belmont and Aqueduct, then you're not really a racing fan, and you wouldn't be listening to us right now. So, but there were so many winning your in, so many important point earning races. And if it's okay with you, I spun the wheel, and I'd like to start with what I thought was, to me, one of the most intriguing races of the weekend, and that was the Grade 2 Jessamine at Keeneland, where there was not a one-way, well, there couldn't be a one-way bob, but a two-way bob. There was a three-way bob hitting the wire, and if you asked 10 people who won the race, they would give you 10 different answers. I mean, and it was just an incredible race with 3 horses Mayday ready, totally justified. And Why is the third place?
Destino d'Oro.
D'Oro. See, I was in France and I wasn't, I'm picking up on my Italian. But a lot of people say that daughter of Bolt d'Oro actually ran the best race. Ren, what do you think about the Jessamine?
Well, I actually had done a cram session show on the Breeders' Cup Future Stars forecast with my husband, Matt Carothers, and international ace reporter Jess Stafford. And during the course of the show, we had to kind of speed things up. There were only 2 horses I wanted to talk about regarding the Jessamine, and it was Mayday Ready and Totally Justified. So I felt like I was justified. I looked pretty smart. I gave out an exacta. Yeah. But Destino d'Oro, to your point, yeah, there was a bumped and clipped heels situation. And it is funny because I talked to both Brad Cox and the trainer of Mayday Ready, Joseph Lee, and both of them thought the Destino got there first. So they were waiting for that photo to come up, and yeah, it was Mayday Ready. And the cool thing about this filly, I got up close and personal with her at the barn, as I mentioned before, and she is all class. You stand next to her, she is just looking out into the distance and taking in the surroundings and breathing in all the scents. And Joseph Lee is so kind, so understated. This is a really big horse for him, and she is coming correct with the credentials as well. I mean, this is a daughter of Tapit. She's out of Nemeralia by More Than Ready. Nemeralia, funny enough, I mean, she was beaten only 3/4 of a length in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf behind Catch a Glimpse and Alice Springs. So she's got that there, and not in that race, but Frankie Dettori had ridden her before, the mother, over in Europe. So it's really nice to see him cultivating this relationship with this filly who is now 3 for 3 with Frankie aboard all career starts.
And the reason why personally it was so intriguing to me is we have a couple of fillies that are all gunning for that juvenile filly turf Breeders' Cup race in a few weeks. And Ren, I know you're not a regular on the show, but you are a regular listen to the show.
Yes, so I am.
You recognize that I rarely say the B word. I rarely say Breeders' Cup.
I know, you're superstitious.
I'm superstitious, but now
look at me in my horseshoes.
Exactly, upside down. Yeah, but now all the win and you're in races are over in that division, so I can start to say Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly. It's really just because you're here. It has nothing to do with the fact that Joe's not here. But yeah, that division in particular is of near and dear to my heart. Yeah. We talked a little bit about pre-show about how there just doesn't seem like there's as many international horses coming over for the juvenile filly turf race. Like last year, Portofino, came over and ran a bang up race, for Medallion Racing and their partners, and Donica O'Brien, who trains the filly. And I just don't see that en masse group of horses coming over. There's certainly some talented fillies coming over, but it doesn't look like there's going to be 4 or 5 or 6 like there have been in years past.
Yeah, well, there is one monster who looks to be coming over, and that, of course, is the 4 for 4 Lake Victoria for Aidan O'Brien.
And has the pedigree, both the human pedigree as well as the equine pedigree for sure. So as things start to play out over the next couple of weeks, I believe, if I remember correctly, and you would be the expert on this, but October 21st is when the pre-entries come out for all of the
it's going to be somewhere around there. I don't have the exact date right in front of me, but that sounds about right.
It's October 21st. I was giving you a softball.
Oh, you're giving me a pass.
Because you're new to this.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Thank you for not throwing me to the wolves there.
Exactly. What other races did you think were of interest or of intrigue where you were like, wow, either that horse won the race and I'm really impressed, or there's a sleeper here that 4 weeks from now I'm going to be giving out to my corporate sponsors that pay me to give them picks?
You already know where I'm going to go with this. You already know where I'm going to go.
Go ahead.
How can you not?
Okay. All 30,000 people who listen, who download and subscribe, by the way, don't forget to subscribe, to the show, are on pins and needles right now, the edges of their seat. They don't need to buy the whole chair because they only need the edge.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So if anybody has ever listened to me, you already know that I am obsessed with a certain family in our thoroughbred breeding book.
Is that the Green family, Ren?
It is the Green family, actually. Yes, absolutely. John and Len, man. But yeah, family 1X. That's the tail female family of La Troyenne. And I keep pushing this statistic because it blows my mind, because you have to think of it this way, right? When we talk about family numbers, what are family numbers? Well, Bruce Lowe, back in the late 1800s, he came up with numbering these female families, these taproot families, and assigning them a number based on how many classic winners they were giving. So 1 being the best, and then you trickle on down. And originally there was 40 something horses. But then that expanded out to 70 something. And then they added American horses and, just around the world, different families. Now, that being said, I don't look at the family numbers in that regard going, okay, well, this has to be the best because it's family 1, because think of all the different things that have happened since they were assigned in the first place. And maybe the methodology itself wasn't exactly scientific. But that all being said, it does enable me to go right away, oh, 1X, that is La Troyenne, or, various numbers to various famous families. In this case, the reason why I bring it up, after I've now told you how many families there are, it's a lot, it's prolific. Family 1X, if you exclude 2023, because there wasn't a 1X baby in there, 2022, back 5 years, 4 of the 5 winners of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile specifically are from Family 1X. So Forte, Corniche, Essential Quality, and Game Winner are all Family 1X. Who's a 1X now that's got a shot there at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? Well, East Avenue, who won the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity emphatically. What a specimen. I went to the barn to go see him up close and personal with Brendan Walsh. This horse is gorgeous in every single way. And what a wonderful temperament as well. And the pedigree, it's one of those ones you want to root for. I mean, this is a son of Medaglia d'Oro, and then his mother is a half sister to a horse near and dear to so many people's hearts, Cody's Wish.
Yep. And you're right. The 1X just continually pops up and pops up.
Does it not? I'm going to get you to get one of these days.
All the time. I wish I could. The problem is you're so famous. I
keep selling them.
And you keep selling them that now it's starting to pop up. Like I looked on the Fasig-Tipton digital, and in one of the notes there, it says, Ren Carothers says that we're a 1X. So you're
does it? No.
Yeah, you're adding value.
Yeah, right.
You should trademark it, quite frankly.
I don't know if I believe that, because most people, I feel like, look at me like I have 2 heads when I say it, but it's statistical data.
Right.
I don't know how you ignore that with that type of consistency within a 5-year span to have 4 winners when you think of how hard it is to even get in the gate.
Well, I think I think it's a prolific family. You've proven that time and time again. But that being said, there are a lot of them out there. There's a lot of 1X out there. So I think if you actually looked at the stats, I'm going to push back a little bit. If you look at the stats and you said, yes, they've come up with all of these great runners and recent runners and early developing runners. But if you look at them as a pool, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. Maybe Steph could come up with the statistics on this. That sounds like a good project for her. Number one fan, Steph Justify. And you look at that pool of horses.
I saw her there. We had a big hug after Immersive
Yes,
one.
no, she's awesome.
Yeah.
If you look at like the 1X horses in totality versus the other families in totality, I think that they would have a statistic edge, but not quite to the extent that I think that you're excited about, your enthusiasm portrays.
No, I think they aren't as prolific as you might think. In terms of, I mean, in the sales book, even if you look, I mean, they're there, but it has to be also, there's also more of a specificity in some of the branches, because remember, La Troyenne had a couple
Wait, what was that word?
Specific. I can't even say it. You know what I'm trying to say.
No, I can't say it.
I can't say now. I'm tripping over my own teeth. That's been a lifelong problem for me.
So excited about being on the show.
Specific. I can't do it. You got Wojciechowski out of me. Specificity.
You know what the funny thing about it, Ren, is that if it was a horse's name, you and I would be able to say it like in our sleep. Like it wouldn't be a big deal. There's so many names of horses that in real life I would not be able to say if they were just a vocabulary word. That being one of them. Anyway, we digress. What other races?
The only other one I can think of right now, as far as the 2-year-old colts go toward the Breeders' Cup, is Getaway Car. He's a 1X.
Yep. And a prolific horse out on the West Coast. So speaking of the West Coast,
yes,
which some people would say is the best coast, I don't. But
I like the East Coast. But
I like the East Coast.
I did think that it was pretty cool to see Citizen Bull move up from the Del Mar Futurity into that winner's position. I mean, that's a nice horse.
It isn't, and he went gate to wire. Garcia rode him very well. I think 23-4, 47, 112-2, and basically kind of put everyone to sleep. This was what I would call a merry-go-round race, because basically once everyone got into position after the first quarter of the race, that's pretty much where they ended up. Citizen Bull went gate to wire. Getaway Car was, kind of sitting second and didn't change. McKinsey Street was like third, fourth, kind of going back and forth, and ended up, third. So it wasn't necessarily, to me, it wasn't an exciting race to watch because the race was over at the quarter mile. That being said, the Into Mischief Citizen Bull certainly, improved, going now from 5.5 to 7 to 1.16 miles, and is running, races out there on the Breeders' Cup home track of Del Mar. Obviously, this was a Santa Anita, but his first two starts were at Del Mar. And Getaway Car, I thought it was interesting. They took the blinkers off.
Yeah.
After winning his first two starts and then running kind of, a subpar race in the Del Mar Futurity, they went ahead and took the blinkers off. Do you think that affected him, good or bad?
It's hard to say with 2-year-olds, right?
Yeah,
because they're just finding themselves, and they can get kind of mental. So you try one thing, you try another. And when I say mental, I don't mean mental like humans. Like if we can get mental, it's like right. But horses, they can get distracted. Sometimes they're there for the focus, just keep them sharp. Sometimes they do better when you take them off because they're more relaxed, because they feel like they can really see everything that's happening around them. But going back to Citizen Bull, I will say he's got the Breeders' Cup head cred, because in that pedigree, you've got Favorite Trick.
Right. And what a phenomenally early superstar he was. I mean, I remember that was that the horse that put Pat Byrne on the map? Was it?
I believe so. Yeah. I talked to Jill about this horse before, and just horse of the year at 2 years old.
Yeah. It's rarely seen, and well deserved on that. Any other races in Kentucky? Because you guys were there, right? You and Matt were...
it was. I will tell you, just going back to the East Avenue situation, there was an objection. I went to go get some footage of the horse before he came over from the track onto the turf course where they do the winner's circle presentation, and I saw that Tyler Gaffleone was off, and I thought, what happened? Did he fall? And then I realized there was an objection that was long too, waiting out what was going to happen with the steward's decision. And so you saw Brendan and the Godolphin team and Tyler standing around, and we're just waiting. And there was this great moment though where Brendan walked over to the horse and he was giving the horse some loving pats and whatnot. And then, of course, when they said no change, there was a sigh of relief and everything. And it was just very heartening to see that, however. But yeah, I will also say another big moment was the Bourbon Stakes on Sunday. Will Walden, that colt, when he came back, and I'm sorry, the name right now, Minaret Station, right. They're walking up to meet the horse to bring him over to, and for the presentation. And they were so happy. And, we're going to California. We're going to the Breeders' Cup, right? So in addition to, all the excitement about going to the Breeders' Cup, there was also this very sweet moment with rider Christian Torres and his beautiful wife, Valerie, and their beautiful daughter, embracing each other once he got off the horse. He's always got his family with him, and it's so cool to see the support.
Yeah, between that and Will winning that race, the winning you're in. And I don't know if you caught this, but Paco Lopez won his 4,000th career winner at Keeneland, which was great. Yeah. We thought it was going to be us in the allowance race a couple races beforehand. Paco was on, and I'm just so happy for him that he got it, because look, I've been rough on him on the show, and Joe and I have been rough on him, because
I think a lot of people,
he was kind of a careless rider. And he, for whatever reason, this year in 2024, I think he had his come to Jesus moment. And whether it was like he, looked at himself in the mirror and said, I need to be a little bit more, believe in my skills and not be as reckless, or just, as we all get older, sometimes some of us mature, and he's feeling it. But for whatever reason, hat off to you, Paco Lopez, for your 4,000th victory. That is not an easy mountain to climb.
No, not at all. And I will tell you, I do have a funny story. When I was at Tampa Bay, covering one of the big days of racing there. I turned around and I saw one of the riders all suited up to go, helmet on, ready. And I was like, "Oh, hey, Danny," because real quick, I just glanced. I thought it was Danny Centeno. And he's like, he just smiled and took it. And then I realized right after he walked away to go get on the horse, I was like, that was Paco. And so I told Paco, listen, I realized I just glanced really quickly. I saw the chocolate brown eyes. I thought, so Danny was the first name that came to mind. He goes, "You think I'm Danny Centeno?" Like, he just started bagging on Danny to Danny's face. It was good stuff. It was good stuff.
Nice.
Competitive on and off the horses.
Exactly. Always. No offense to Danny, because he's a solid rider, especially especially the Tampa meet.
No. He was insulting looks.
Yeah.
Okay, like, you're both great looking.
I get that. I understand. So the other race to me that I thought was of great interest and more for what's going to happen next was IDIOMATIC winning the Spinster. Emphatically. I mean,
yes.
Look, the horse, that was the race that Brad Cox and Judd Mondt, were eyeing as the springboard for the distaff. The horse jumped up and improved and went from a 96 buyer to a 102 buyer. Again, that's not the only indicator, but it is a good one. But IDIOMATIC, and Joe and I have talked about this in the past, this year, 2024, has been a gift from the racing gods by allowing us to watch IDIOMATIC run again, because Judd Mondt could have just as easily taken their homebred and gone and put her in the breeding shed and put her in foal to one of the top stallions in the world, and nobody would have blinked twice, because that is the current state of the industry right now, is that you take a grade 1 winner, a champion, and you say thanks for the memories, and you make them put them into the breeding shed. And they didn't have to do that. And all she's done in her, what I would call her encore year, is run 5 times, 3 wins in 2 seconds, and is the, dare I say, the most legitimate horse to take on Torpedo Anna if Torpedo Anna actually runs in the distaff. Yeah. Please.
Well, I'm almost certain that we're going to see Torpedo Anna in the distaff. I had, after the Travers, I kept putting her on because I'm one of the voters for the classic rankings. Currently, I keep putting City of Troy first, just FYI, and then Fierceness.
And that's a nice humble brag, Ren. It
depends. We'll see how he runs. But I had been putting her on that list as well. But then Kenny made it pretty clear that no, we're going to go for the distaff for sure. And that filly, the Grizzly, I mean, you gotta love her. That she's all guts, all heart. She really seems to relish winning races. And as far as IDIOMATIC goes, you're absolutely right. They've been so sporting with her, with Judd Mondt and Brad. And I actually talked to him before the race. And, it's fun when you do have a horse like this and you're going to defend it to title. This is the second time she's won the Spinster. So let's see now if she can double up on the distaff, right? And you're totally correct. 102 buyer, 6.5 length win. And you got to give her credit too. I mean, out of the personal ensign, Raging Sea went on to win the Belle Dame on October 6th. And the figure there, not too, it was an 86.
Yeah, it wasn't impressive. It wouldn't have made the top 5 in this race.
No. So we gotta stay clear on there. And then we did see Soul of an Angel go and win out of the personal ensign as well. And the Princess Rooney, that was a 3 1/4 length score, 93 buyer for her. But I mean, clearly IDIOMATIC and Torpedo Anna are going to be the headliners of the distaff. And as far as you brought up, when IDIOMATIC does go to the breeding shed, what a benefit she's going to be to the thoroughbred breed. Hopefully, I mean, you never know till they have that first foal. But here you've got a daughter, a Curlin, and she is from the family of Best in Show. And we know, anybody who knows pedigrees knows that family is just prolifically talented.
Even though it's not a 1X.
Even though it's not 1X. My favorite families are 1X, and I'll take an 8F any day, all day.
Right, exactly. And speaking of daughters,
yes.
I'm going to lead into a little bit of a controversial conversation that happened, and that was Tepin's daughter, Grateful, earned a Group 1, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the Prix de Royal.
Excuse you.
Excuse me, yes.
Yes.
Always.
And believe it or not, when I was over, I was in France, and when I was there, that was the talk of the week in racing was, whether or not there was going to be a great winner, at Longchamp.
Yeah.
And whether or not they were going to bring it over. So let's talk a little bit about Grateful and the daughter of Tepin. And I think what overshadowed the win was the fact that, kind of by accident, I think it was found out that Tepin had passed away, and not recently, Ren, like in 2023, she passed away.
No, I know it's hard, and I understand why fans would be taken aback, a bit bewildered by that news coming out in sort of that passing way. But we do have to understand, at the end of the day, these horses are their horses, and you do have the right to keep things private or share as you see fit in regarding the stewardship of them. But I do understand why people would feel like this was something that they would have wanted to know about. But the thing that I do take away is just the outpouring of love we have seen for Tepin, and she is so deserving.
Right. And was one of the horses, if I remember correctly, that, was doing well here, went over to England and ran in a huge race there, and was one of the first horses of recent memory to go ahead and win there. And Mark Cassidy obviously is our top trainer and is a friend, and he was surprised to hear about the news and crushed to hear about the news that Tepin had passed. And look, if the former trainer doesn't know, then it wasn't meant for public consumption. And I can tell you that, as an owner, we get inquiries about horses that, from breeders, and, or maybe somebody owns a piece of the family and they would like to know what's going on. Obviously not at the level of a Tepin, but, it's still important to them to know what's going on in the family. And we get, some shock, also pushback from people when they say, well, how come you didn't tell me that this horse passed? Or how come you didn't tell me that you retired this horse? And quite frankly, it's none of your business. I mean, I understand from a human level standpoint.
Oh yeah, of course.
That especially when you're taking care of the horse and it becomes a part of your family and everything, that your heart is broken when you hear bad news about the horse. But I stand steadfast saying that, we have an obligation to take care of the horse. We have an obligation to make sure that horse is cared for to the best of its ability, irrespective of what it's doing, if it's retired or if it's breeding for us or anywhere in between. But I don't have the responsibility to call every single person that touched the horse. And I don't want to sound heartless, but
no, I know.
That it's an unfortunate thing. So if we're obviously, a little more open with communication, being on the podcast and here in the States, than Coolmore is. But Coolmore never came out and said, it's not your, for you to know, it's not our obligation to tell you that. I'm saying that as the owner, it's not my obligation to make an announcement. Yes, she was probably one of the most famous fillies in recent history. Yes, there's stake races named after her. Yes, she was an important filly for so many reasons, domestically and internationally. Sold for $8 million when her racing career was over. So she was more of a public figure than most horses would be necessarily. But again, I don't think it's their responsibility to announce or have a press release or anything like that, because quite frankly, other than from a humanitarian standpoint, it doesn't benefit to do that.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's the thing too. I mean, people have to understand that there's nothing secretive here. She was with a farm that gives the best of care to their horses. They love their horses, consummate horse people. You talk to any of them, they know the horse top to bottom. They know the lineages going all back. They know everything they need to know to take the best of care of their horses. And the reason I bring up lineage, because, knowing the quirks of a horse, knowing what they may, have certain issues with, whatever, they know how to take care of the horse completely. And so there's no reason to be like, oh my gosh, well, why wouldn't they tell us that? There's no reason for that.
Yeah, there's nothing nefarious here.
No,
there's nothing that they were trying to hide.
Exactly. There's so many, and people maybe outside of it don't realize that there are just so many ways that a mare or any horse can pass away. I know she was only 13 years old, but there's colic, there's laminitis. You could take a bad step in the field,
Right. You get kicked
foaling
in the head.
complications, anything. Yes, anything. And I mean, there have been really random things that have happened. I've heard of horse getting struck by lightning, just tons of things.
Yep. It almost makes you not want to own horses.
No, you still got to, not quite. Like I still love them. I'm still going to go, but no, there's so much that goes into it. I mean, once you retire, it's not just like, oh, you just, run out in a pasture every day. There's still care that goes in every single day for that horse and making sure they're living a happy life. But accidents happen, and who knows, it could have absolutely been anything. It is their prerogative to share. And I'm just thankful that we've seen the outpouring of love for Tepin that we have had, that respect is still there all these years after her retirement. Coming up next on Rail Talk, we're going to be speaking with Tod Wojciechowski. He is the director of sales at OBS. They've got that sale going on. A lot of yearlings you're going to want to keep your eye on, but they also are doing this through Hurricane Milton. We'll find out how everything is going on the other side. Rail Talk is sponsored by the Green Group, the #1 accounting firm in the horse business. And there is one reason. No other CPA firm knows the horse industry like they do. I mean, Ren Green, he owns over 200 horses, and his DJ Stable LLC's won over 2,500 races. So it's no surprise that the Green Group has over 800 clients because they make them money and they save them taxes. And here's a special offer for the listeners of Rail Talk. Very special. Len is offering a complimentary and confidential half-hour consultation, and he guarantees you, let me repeat, he guarantees you that he will find value, okay? But don't take it from me. Check out what Bill Betts has to say.
I used to have an accountant here in Lexington, and he retired. And I'd heard about Len and his involvement in the horses, and somehow we got together and talked and hit it off. And we've been partners on a lot of mares and a lot of activities in addition to his work, doing his work as our accountant. His knowledge of this specific industry is, it's unique, and it has situations in it that if you don't have experience, it's hard for you to understand. And Len's been in it for so long, and it's just seen all sides of it that he brings an expertise to this that you just can't find with most people.
Bill Betts, who doesn't say a lot about anything, compliments Len Green. That should be reason enough to go see the Green Group before year end. And in case you didn't catch that number, Michael, what was that number again?
732-634-5100. Green Group.
That's right. 732-634-5100 for the Green Group.
So with the October yearling sale in swing at OBS, what better way to get the scoop on all the happenings than with Tod Wojciechowski of OBS Sales. He's the director of sales, in fact. And thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
What is the lay of the land right now? We've got Storm Milton moving in.
Well, obviously there's a lot of moving parts to this. Certainly Milton is turning away in the Gulf. We made a decision yesterday afternoon to try to move the sale forward. They're expecting landfall, depending on which model you'll follow, from anywhere from Wednesday evening to Thursday morning. We were supposed to be selling Tuesday and Wednesday. We elected to start the sale today at 3 o'clock, and we're going to sell 1 through 200 today. And then tomorrow we'll start at 11:30 and sell the balance of the sale. Just trying to get the sale completed. And trying to keep in mind safety for both animals and humans, people being able to get preparations done that live locally, and others that may be here that they can get out and get home if Florida's not their home.
Yeah, and Todd, it's amazing because I know the horses are there and the people are starting to trickle in, but there's a whole infrastructure that goes into the sales that people don't even realize. How has that been as far as lining up auctioneers, bid spotters, the accountants and everything in between?
Well, it's been a little bit of a challenge. Certainly these guys have responded well, But you're right about the infrastructure, down to the ringmen, making sure we have ringmen in place to lead the horses into the ring. Certainly the auctioneers are an integral part of that. They've made adjustments and got here. Some of them may have to leave early because of prior commitments or, not wanting to get caught in Florida when they're supposed to be at a prior commitment. Those guys stay pretty busy all the time. Yeah. So it has been a challenge to pull everyone together, but, even everyone involved, consigners, sellers, employees of both consigners and OBS have been very understanding and working hard to try to make this go as best it can.
Have you ever had anything similar throughout the history of OBS? I mean, obviously not a potential hurricane like this. I think we're still in a tropical storm designation, but
actually it is now up to like a category 3 right now. So,
oh my gosh.
They are expecting it to strengthen even more. However, it's up to a 4 now. But they do say that it should weaken a little bit prior to landfall. But that's, small comfort. It weaken a little bit. I do believe prior to me that they may have, when our yearling sale used to be in August, I think they had to contend with a hurricane previously. Right. The closest thing since I've been here is having to deal with COVID. When we had the March sale was right when everything went to lockdown. We had to make a decision what we were doing. I mean, horses were on the grounds, people were on the grounds. We had to sit down and make some hard decisions on what we were going to do. Ultimately, we ended up having the sale, and the local government supported us in that. We'd gotten a call from the mayor that supported us in that move. We figured the people were already here, the horses were already here. We needed to get it done. So that would be the closest thing since I've been here that we've had to contend with.
Right. And Todd, you mentioned before about the importance of making sure it was safe, not only for the participants, but also most importantly for the equine athletes, for the yearlings that are there right now. This summer, OBS, in conjunction with the 2 other major sales companies, actually put out a mandate that with regard to some prohibited medications and practices that I know as a board member I'm very proud of. Can you get into a little bit of that and how that's going to be implemented, for the upcoming 2-year-old sales in 2025? Sure.
The 3 sales companies got together with some suggestions from outside help and decided to come up with some more uniform rules that would be more beneficial for the buyers as far as having uniformity across the sales companies. It wasn't a big move for us. We had already had a pretty robust plan in place, but now there have been a few changes moving closer to what would be maybe racetrack rules. As racetrack rules evolve, we have tried to evolve with it, and we are closer to that now.
No, that's wonderful. And talking about the breeze ups as well, there's been a little bit of a variation in how we might see these horses under tech going forward. More of a gallop.
Yeah. So last year we had some consigners, and some of them were dispersals that they elected to gallop all the horses that they really weren't prepared to breeze, and those horses sold well. They were high quality horses. They had a very nice pedigrees, and those horses sold well. Yeah, as we move into the spring this year, we will offer, and I think that probably kickstarted this, we will offer the opportunity when someone enters their horse in a 2-year-old sale, they can enter that horse as gallop only, so that, and that will be notated on the page that they are gallop only, and that will allow buyers to know that this wasn't a last minute decision that they made, that because they didn't think the horse was fast enough or whatever, someone might dream up. But these people intended for this horse to be galloped, in the under tech show the entire time. And, that's one thing, people commonly refer to it as the breeze show. We always have referred to it as the under tech show because the option to gallop has always been there.
Right.
That's not a requirement to breeze. It never has been. Those horses are always welcome to gallop. Right. So that's why we refer to it as the undertack show, not the breeze up or gallop.
I would say there has been that misconception.
Yep, absolutely.
And so the medication rules that John referenced, those rules certainly apply to the Undertax show. We have had similar rules in place. They are a little more stringent now. And, we have always, we test around 15% of the horses that perform in an Undertax show. We do random drug testing on those horses. And those horses, if they come back positive, if we get the information back in time, those horses are usually scratched. Or if a buyer buys a horse that has somehow come back with a positive test, they're notified and they have the option of whether to keep or return that horse.
And Todd, have you seen, especially with the crop rule, for example, with the Undertax show, have you seen that fines have impacted the consignors' actions as far as what they're instructing the riders to do, either during the Undertax show or in the gallop afterwards?
I believe that the consignors, we all want to work together to quote unquote put on a good show, if you will. I think that there's an understanding out there now, at least amongst our consignors. We're working in conjunction with them, like I said, to put on a good show. I do believe that the rules that we've implemented, and we have enforced those rules. And I think it shows up in our Undertax videos and in the live streams. I think it shows up in the Undertax shows.
I do love the Undertax shows also, just the way the designation, obviously you see what the time is if they were doing a breeze. I love that you also include how the wind was going that day.
Yeah, so we try to include as much information as possible, tailwinds, headwinds, temperature, time of day. In the last few years, we have stretched the Undertax shows out over more days so that we're not breezing or have as many horses going on each day. In the old days, let's take April as an example. There's 1,200 head. Well, we would have 400 head a day going, or 300 or 400 head a day going, and we would, be at the track from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. That's problematic. Number one, it's hard on animals. It's hard on people to stay focused that long. The other part that stretching out the Undertax show that we have, again, taking April as an example, we'll now do that over 7 days. In the event we do have a weather situation, we can adjust, maybe skip a day. We'll have to add a couple of more per day. It has allowed us a lot more flexibility to deal with that. The other part of that, giving you that information, is as hard as we try to make as consistent surface as possible day in and day out, from day 1 to day 7, from 8 o'clock in the morning till now 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there's obviously going to be variables. And we want you aware of those variables. If it's, that horse breezes at 8 o'clock in the morning and it's, let's take March, for example, where it might be 56 degrees at 8 a.m. and by 2 p.m. it's 85 degrees. That's a significant change in temperature, and it will have an effect on the racetrack. Since for about, I guess, maybe 12 years now, we've had the synthetic surface. People have a variety of opinions on it, but I will tell you this: for a sales company that breezes more horses over more days than any other sales company in the world, it allows us to be as consistent as possible. And I would believe as a buyer that if I'm trying to make buying decisions on a horse that breezed on day 1 or day 7, I would want as much consistency as possible in the racetrack and in the environment.
Right.
Do you think we're ever going to see a return of the Day of Champions? I loved that program.
Well, I don't know. It's not on the agenda currently, but you never know. You never know.
I've been there, and it's such a fun atmosphere.
And it was a lot of fun. Very hard to put on. It's really hard to pull together. John talked about the infrastructure for the sales. It was really hard to pull together a gate crew, a starter, stewards, officials for one day of racing. Right. It was difficult to do.
Right. So Todd, let's talk a little bit about a couple of the recent successes that OBS has, the graduates have had. I know over the weekend, and Ren and I talked about it as far as they're popping up all over the place. So we're winning your in races in Kentucky and in California, and hitting the board all over the place in California. Are there certain horses that when they start running, you and Tommy and the rest of the crew, say, oh yeah, we knew after watching the horse Breeze that was going to be a superstar?
Well, we do go back through our notes. We do the one thing, John, Tom Ventura very well. Tom is dogged when it comes to looking at horses, as any consignor may know that sold with us. He loves to look at horses, and we try to do a good job of looking at horses that were in our sale. We go back through our notes and see where we were right and see where we were wrong. But yeah, that's an exciting time for us. You mentioned this weekend. I mean, what we had, 4 horses winning your in.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And then most of them 2-year-olds. We did have one January grad. But over the weekend, we also had 2 big winners in Japan. One that won by 9, another horse that won by 4 or 5. That's an exciting time for us. If you look at the results of our grads over the Saratoga and Del Mar meets, the number of grade ones we won, pretty impressive. Not only that, but the yearling sale. I mean, I don't want to sleep on the yearling sale. Certainly the majority of the horses we sell are 2-year-olds, but as we sit here about to hold one, it gets lost in the shuffle a lot. And I understand it. You have the September sale, which is, a monstrous sale, 4,000 head of horses. But, there's plenty of good horses that are still available that people have come down and done well with. I think the Felds came down here last year and bought Trickery, for 27,000. Mystic Lake was a, $130,000 2-year-old, but it was a $3,500 yearling. So we actually have some people from Japan here for this sale, and for the simple fact that they've seen a number of the horses that they've looked at the 2-year-olds. They said, oh, we could have seen those horses in October. Got those horses in October. So.
Yep. That's really exciting. I mean, you were talking about some of these grade 1 winners over the weekend: Chancer McPatrick, Federal Judge,
and Frizette Champagne Double.
Yes. And I actually, as far as the Jessamine winner, Mayday Ready, I was up close and personal with her this weekend, actually day before yesterday. And she is outstanding. You can see the class. And it's really exciting when you're looking at these young prospects, because there's always the hope they're going to be the next big star.
Well, not unlike Kentucky, in other places, Ocala is littered with really good horsemen. Yeah. And part of what makes the 2-year-old sales good is the quality of horsemanship that's applied to them. I tell people all the time that, when one buys a 2-year-old, certainly you're buying the horse and you're buying their ability, but you're also buying the expertise with which they've been prepared. And most of these guys that are selling 2-year-olds here in Ocala, they're also preparing horses for the races. Don't think they don't know how to get a horse ready for the races. So I think that's an often overlooked key component of the 2-year-old sales, is that you're getting the expertise of not only they picked out a good horse, but they've also prepared it well.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It really is. And we're so thankful for your time, especially given what's going on. It's already hectic enough with the sales itself and keeping that organized, but with Milton, additionally, our prayers are with you all, that everything, everybody stays safe and sound. And
Milton certainly has thrown a wrench into it. The one thing I would point out is kind of as a concession to our consigners, we did reduce our RNA commission for this sale. And the one thing that I will give you a scoop, John, that you're probably familiar with, we will be unveiling some online sales here in the near future. And I say near future because this sale may have changed that timeline a little bit. Right. We may be trying to see what we could do digitally to help these consigners, given the tough situation they're put in here with Hurricane Milton. But currently we had looked at having a sale in December and a sale in January. we might alter that a little bit. We haven't had a lot of time to discuss it, but Tommy and I talked about it a little bit briefly, trying to do something to accommodate these horsemen that are here during Milton with the digital component. The one thing that I would say on our digital sales or online sales, as we call them, the one component that we will offer that I think will be different, will differentiate us a little bit, particularly if you have a unraced racing prospect. Given that we own our own facility and we have the racetrack here, we will make it available for an optional undertack show for those horses that maybe don't have any racing, doesn't have form. Certainly not every horse is going to take advantage of it. They shouldn't. But if it's something that will help you sell your horse better, we will have a day for an optional undertack where they'll be able to bring their horse to OBS, have it videoed, and have a time if they wish. And then we'll put that up for the digital sale, for the online sale. So just something that we can offer that, a lot of other places can't because we have our own facility. And I think, as I said, with a unraced racing prospect, I really think it could be a benefit to those horses.
Yep. That's why I love working with you guys, Todd, because you're innovative, trying to make things safer for the horses, trying to make things better for the end users, and ultimately getting the best product out there, which are the racehorses. So I can't thank you enough for being involved and for taking some time out of your very hectic next 48 hours. And like Ren said, we'll be thinking of you guys, and I'll be calling in to bid later on today and tomorrow for sure.
Great, good. Feel free. Well, I'll be ready. I'll be sitting by the phone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ren.
Tod Wojciechowski, Director of Sales at OBS. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Rail Talk is sponsored by TaylorMade. I gotta tell you, these guys do everything. You need a place to board your horse? TaylorMade. You need a stallion for your mare? TaylorMade. You need to sell that baby? TaylorMade. They do it all. They get your horse ready to go through the ring. They make sure they get you the right price. And they've also even got racing partnerships. They're awesome. I love the brothers.
The brothers, now it's been to like their third generation, if you can believe that, Ren. Third generation tailors that are involved and helping run the business. And I have a lot of communication with Jeff Hazlett, who's the director of sales, and Mark Taylor.
Oh, I love Mark. Yeah.
Mark is great. And despite the fact that he's a
Duncan
Clemson
Frank.
grad, and and Duncan and Frank and Ben with the Stallions. I mean, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a Taylor, quite frankly, in Kentucky. Why you're swinging dead cats is a whole nother therapy session. But anyway,
yes, I would say so.
Back to the point. The point is that TaylorMade does everything from soup to nuts, selling, raising, strategizing, promoting, everything that you want to do with your horses. They do it to the nth degree. And we're where we are today because of TaylorMade.
The search for the next star can take you afar. And we're going to be talking now with Aron Wellman from Eclipse Thoroughbreds. He's across the pond looking for that next big time horse, right?
Yeah, I am in Newmarket, England right now, about to embark upon the Tattersall's yearling sale that starts tomorrow. So yeah, bunkered down here in cozy confines of the Jockey Club rooms.
Nice. All right. So you've been out seeing the babies?
Yeah, hit the ground running this morning about 8 o'clock and just finished up at about 4. So a solid 7-8 hour day and a lot of really nice stock to work with here.
And Ren, one of the reasons why we wanted to have Aron on this show in particular is that Aron has a big announcement, and I won't steal his thunder. So Aron, if you just want to go ahead and take it and run, we are all ears. Yeah,
thrilled to announce that it's been a long time in the making, but for the first time, we're actually going to collaborate with father-son team of Len and Jon Green of DJ Stable. Very fortunate for Eclipse to be partnering on their exciting 2-year-old filly, VIXEN, who will hopefully be running in about 25 days' time in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Fillies turf.
That's so exciting. I mean, hey, I love the 2-year-olds. Come on. That's awesome.
That's what Ren's show is all about. And for those listeners who don't realize, but we've been in the business a long time. Aron's obviously been in the business a long time as well. And we've been trying
since
to find
he was 8.
Since he was 8. So it's like 3 years ago. right? That was your bar mitzvah present, was to get a piece of a horse.
I'm way more gray than you, John. Way more gray than you.
And we've been trying to get together on the right horse, and the past couple of years especially, we've been bouncing ideas off each other, and then this one just hit a sweet spot for both of us, Ren, where not only can this daughter of Vekoma run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly race, turf race, but also is going to don the Eclipse silks. So they will be represented, not only in the paddock, but hopefully in the winner circle in their very historic silks as well. So it's been the right project, hopefully, for us to embark on a beautiful friendship.
No, that's awesome. You know what's interesting? Her breeder, Jason Howard, had actually gotten a hold of me because he's so excited about this filly, and he just wants to keep on top of anytime she gets mentioned in the media. She had put forth, as you said, a tremendous performance there at Woodbine, and he is over the moon about this filly and watching her continue her career. I believe it's the first horse he ever bred.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
We'll take all the beginner's luck we can get, right, John? That'll make for a great post-Breeders' Cup story. First horse this guy ever breeds turns into a Breeders' Cup winner.
I'll clarify, actually. He says, awesome. I'm so excited for her. This is the first horse I sold at auction. So maybe that's his first to sell at auction. Wow, though, right?
Even so, a lot of firsts. The first crop out of Vekoma and or by Vekoma, excuse me. I'm still jet lagged from flying over from Europe, also, Aaron. So I apologize. But first crop, of Vekoma's first partnership for us to put together and be associated. First time this guy sold, and hopefully Hollywood will take it from there. But we're super excited, which is why we wanted to make the announcement. And Aaron, you guys have had a lot of experience running horses in the Breeders' Cup. This one's going to be in your backyard. Is there any additional excitement because of that?
Look, I don't care if the Breeders' Cup is, at Agua Caliente. It's always going to be exciting. But we started off in October of 2011. And one of the first horses we ever bought was a filly called Sweet Cat, a Kitten's Joy filly that ran second in the Jessamine in her first race for us and took us to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. She ran third that day. So she arguably is one that sort of put Eclipse on the map, or started to put us on the map. And this will be our 14th Breeders' Cup since we started the stable. And touch wood, we have been represented by at least one runner every year since 2011, and this would be our 14th consecutive year. And hopefully not just VIXEN, which we're really excited about, but a few others that could make the gate sporting the Eclipse Baby Blue and Black as well. So it's always exciting. We're thrilled to be associated with DJ, the Green family. And you guys have just been so gracious in putting the deal together. Obviously, Mark Cassie's got her. He's one of our primary trainers as it is. So it just was a really good fit with a high quality filly. And, like you said, there's a lot of firsts to this experience. Very different than our first Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf win that we won back in 2017 with Sharing. She was by a Breeders' Cup winner, out of a Breeders' Cup winner, who was out of a Breeders' Cup winner. So there were a lot of family lineage connections to the Breeders' Cup there. Now you've got Vekoma, who's a first-year stallion. This is a first-time partnership, and hopefully she'll cross the wire first.
I think it's so cool. And what a cool name. I mean, if we could get just a little superficial also, the name is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody that follows our stable, I'm jealous that John came up with this name because it's so phenomenal. But she definitely fits the Eclipse mold from a naming perspective. So that was just even more of a reason to put this deal together and make it happen.
And it would look great on a trophy. Now you're going to be looking at going in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Of course, the big filly for that race, Lake Victoria, Aiden O'Brien, the 4for4 filly. So it's going to be a really fun edition of the race, but we got to talk about another horse while you're over there. I'm just curious, are you hearing a lot of buzz talk about City of Choice chances taking on the Breeders' Cup Classic, getting on dirt for the first time, hopefully maybe getting the job done where the magnificent Giants Causeway had to actually sell for second?
I just got in late last night and really was just on the ground today inspecting yearlings. I could tell you Team Ballydoyle is out here in full force. So,
Yeah.
I think while that big guy's being prepared for the Classic by Aiden, they're on the hunt for their next stars as well. But just the idea of City of Troy coming to America for the Breeders' Cup Classic is just such an indication of what sportsmen the Coolmore Ballydoyle conglomerate really is. They don't have to do this by any stretch of the imagination. They want to do it, and I think they're in this game to be sportsmen and to make history, and that's certainly what they'd be capable of doing if City of Troy came over here and made some noise. So it's just good for the sport, when people are willing to take their stars and take chances with them, and not just, bubble wrap them and find the lowest hanging fruit and path of least resistance. When you see guys like this do it with an asset like City of Troy,
Yes.
It just speaks volumes to really what ambassadors they are for the sport. And I hope he comes over and puts on a great show, whether that means, a win or gaining credibility in defeat.
You two both have been so involved in breeding, selling, buying. When you're watching commentary about, he's out of Galileo Mare, people watching the work, which, by the way, I thought he looked, I'm going to take what Gary Stevens said, because I thought it was on point. He said he looked like a machine out there for that prep at Southwell. I personally do not see a problem. I mean, you got to think about, right, toward the ratio, how many Galileo daughters have had their progeny go then try dirt. I mean, I know Lee was good, very versatile. Leslie's Rose is a nice versatile filly. So what do you think of it? Do you think much to do about nothing, and this horse should go ahead and be able to put his best hoof forward, so to speak?
Well, I think two things. One, they have nothing to lose and everything to gain by running him. Because if he doesn't act on the dirt, you've got your excuse right there. And he's still the asset that he is, and he'll be a blue chip sire regardless. It can only enhance his credentials. And I think number two, if Aidan O'Brien says, we're going to go and try the dirt, and Ryan Moore says, we're going to go and try the dirt, then you got the green light and you move forward with conviction if you're the Ballydoyle boys. So it's very exciting, and hopefully it'll make for a great storyline for Breeders' Cup Week.
I think there's going to be a lot of great races this weekend, and we're just on the cusp of it. Ren, you do a show on it every week. You see how things.
Well, just the 2-year-olds though, so it's fun for me to sort of put our heads together and talk about the older division.
Absolutely, but I think you're gonna see, even though there isn't a leader in the pack as far as the 3-year-old boys go. Torpedo Anna is certainly an interesting conversation piece as far as is she going to be horse of the year or City of Troy. If he wins, then it's a no brainer. But I think what you're looking at is and one thing the Breeders' Cup has done for us. Is that it's a focal point. It's something that we shoot for. It's not just the Triple Crown races, not just the opening weekend of a certain racetrack. It's what our program focuses on. And Aaron mentioned his illustrious career with the Breeders' Cup, 11 in a row. I mean, that's unbelievable. This will be 6 in a row for us, which I felt like was was some good company as well.
With some wins along the way. Wins
along the way. We've been very fortunate. But I think in the grand scheme of things,
but you need a 2-year-old filly on the turf now to start balancing out those juvenile fillies dirt trophies.
Well, the one thing I was going to say, it's like, you have these partnerships that are putting together money to buy these expensive colts. And then you guys recognize that and started buying some expensive fillies. And we had to kind of zag a little bit more and now go with these turf horses a little bit. But, at the end of the day, when you're standing there in the paddock, of the Breeders' Cup, and you look around and you say, wow, I have one of 14 horses of a class of 18,000 or 20,000 foals that are born every year. It humbles me still to this point, Aron. I don't know if you still get kind of chills when you walk into the paddock of a race of that caliber, but to me that's why we do this.
You gave me chills just now. I've got them right now thinking about it, and sometimes we live in a bubble in this business a lot of the time. Especially for those of us that are very fortunate to be able to play at the top of the game, or at least strive to play at the top of the game. So you don't ever want to take these experiences for granted. And just like you said, you walk into the paddock for a Breeders' Cup race or a Triple Crown race or a Classic, and you really have to take a step back because you're one of such a small percentage of the overall horse population. Horse breeders, horse owners, horse trainers, the jockeys that compete there, so we don't take it lightly, but at the same time, it's the bar that we've set for our program, and it's what our partners expect for us to deliver for them year in and year out. It's a high bar to live up to, but I believe it's really what separates the men from the boys in this game is being able to do it not just in lightning and bottle fashion, but consistently year in and year out. That's really the barometer by which I believe performance is judged. So, yes, I get chills thinking about it. We've won 2 Breeders' Cup races, placed in a bunch of others. And, this is the genius of the Breeders' Cup in and of itself. And as we've seen it expand into various divisions, it's a bold statement, but I said it, 13 years ago when we started Eclipse. My goal every year is to have a stable with horses capable of competing in every single division. And that's an obscene goal, but what the Breeders' Cup allows us to do, and the Eclipse Awards are reflected this way as well, is strive to achieve, those goals. Because each division is important in and of its own right. And look, we've got some outsiders this year, no horses that are going to go in with a lot of attention. Last year, I think we had the favorite in both juvenile races with Locked and Candied.
Yes.
Candy might have been the second choice. I can't remember exactly, but they were very esteemed, runners going into their Breeders' Cup races. This year, we're going to be under the radar a little bit, but we hopefully have 5 different runners potentially showing up. So
that's awesome.
It's a testament to the Breeders' Cup. Goes back to John Gaines and his brilliant idea. And you're right, John. I mean, this is what we strive for. Do I think the industry can do a better job throughout the year of promoting these divisions and creating more of a structure around sort of the win and you're in system and leading up to our championship weekend, which is the Breeders' Cup? Yeah, I think there's some ideas out there that we should explore. But we have to, appreciate the Breeders' Cup being what it is today. And for owners like us and thousands of them out there to be represented by anybody on that weekend is the thrill of a lifetime.
See, I've had Aron on the Future Stars forecast before, and I was just struck by not only the knowledge that you hear and the passion you hear, but the fact that it's been his whole life. I mean, he was mucking stalls as a kid and just going through the paces, so he knows it from every angle, front, back, in the office. And I just appreciate the passion you have so much, because without people like you, without John and Len and the people who make everything happen here with the team at Rail Talk, it's just, we don't have a sport then. We don't have it.
Yeah, you raise a really good point, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say how important it was to, the breeders that conceived these horses from the beginning, all the people on the farms where these horses were raised, everybody that touched these horses along the way, and for them to get to a Breeders' Cup race or any big race is so meaningful. I mean, the grooms that are around the clock with these horses, morning, noon, and night, and the hot walkers and the exercise riders, all the way up through the trainer's staff. I mean, these people eat, sleep, live, breathe these animals, so to be center stage on that weekend and the build up, the energy, the electricity in the air, everybody's got their hats representing their horses or their teams. And, the training in the morning is just such an experience. And Breeders' Cup does a great job with the breakfast marquee and really enhancing that experience for the participants and the fans. So it's an awesome week. It's an awesome buildup throughout the year. And yeah, it's just so important for everybody to have these crowning moments where you can really be proud of what you've accomplished.
Well, one of the things I'm really proud of is our budding friendship, and also the opportunity to stand next to you in the paddock, and hopefully in the winter circle in a few weeks out in California. And I can't thank you enough for your time and for coming aboard on Rail Talk. Find us another champion, Aron. All right.
That's what gets us up in the morning. We're going to be trying. Really appreciate the opportunity to partner up with you guys. And look, like I said, 25 days and counting. And we'll be there with bells on. So as long as the fillies in good shape, we're going to have a lot of fun, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you so
on
much.
VIXEN.
That's right, on VIXEN.
Yes.
That's right. Thank you so much for
Great
your
call.
time, and now you can relax and get some sleep and wake up into a new dawn of Eclipse potential champion. So we appreciate your time and look forward to spending some time with you out in California. Thanks so much, Aron.
Likewise. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all you do.
Well, this has been a fun edition of Rail Talk. Sitting in for Joe Bianca, but the beard will be back next week. I do want to say, well, hopefully I'll be back soon. I'm not talking about Kneecap and Joe or anything to get him out, but in any case, I do want to say special thanks to our guest, Aron Wellman, and of course, Tod Wojciechowski of OBS Sales. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with you through this trying time. But John, this has been fun for me to be sitting in.
Well, I'm glad it was fun for one of us.
Well, again, this has been Rail Talk, episode 63. The boys will check you back next week.